GoPro Hero 12, DJI Osmo Action 4. Both of these cameras have bombarded the YouTube market right now. They are just constantly being reviewed by every single YouTuber out there right now. And ironically, the GoPro at the time of recording this video hasn't even come out yet. It comes out tomorrow. So it's weird that it's even being mentioned as much as it is. The thing about this is constant bombardment of what's good, what's bad, you should buy this, you should buy that. It makes the average consumer like me, who's trying to pick up a camera just for a simple upgrade on my own uses, winds up being a really tough decision. Am I making the right choice by purchasing this one camera over this other camera? If I purchase this camera, that's so much money I just dropped. Am I going to have a brick that I can't even really use? Is it going to sit in the drawer somewhere collecting dust? These kind of things get so stressful that you wind up ignoring the YouTube videos or lashing out at them and saying, oh, YouTube reviewer is getting paid, so I'm not going to pay attention to him, or my camera is better than your camera because I bit the bullet and made the decision to buy this one, so I don't want to regret that one, so I'm just going to bash on that guy's camera. In reality, both of these cameras are going to do a really good job. It really comes down to the flexibility based on your own use case scenario and the reliability, how much it's going to work in your favor to where you actually want to pick it up out of that camera drawer and put it to good use. So what I would want to do for the purpose of this video, before the next camera comes out, before the next piece of gear comes out that's the latest hype of you gotta get it, you gotta get it, is I want to kind of go through the method of madness that I like to do before purchasing a piece of gear. It's a pretty simple process, so I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible. Hopefully I don't ramble too much in here, but hopefully by the end of watching this video, I want you to kind of practice this yourself and see if you can make a much more informed, more confident decision on whether you pick up a GoPro Hero 12, a DJI Osmo Action 4, or any piece of gear that you're really hard considering spending your limited amount of resources on. So here we go. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, be patient. All right, this is the number one thing that people really need to pay attention to, is the hype train is real. A new camera's coming out. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. New piece of gear, gear acquisition syndrome, gear acquisition syndrome, gear acquisition syndrome. But the reality is, do you actually really need it? Most of the time, the camera gear that you've been using before you even heard of this new one came out is fantastic. Now this new one suddenly came on the market and you're just like, oh, my stuff is garbage now. I don't want to use it anymore. It's like that was the advertising working in their favor to get you to purchase their product. So the first thing you should consider when being patient is, do I even need to upgrade the camera that I have? I'm happy with what I got. Maybe I don't need to do that. Continuing on with this patience thing is, don't get the pre-order. Hold off. Don't pre-order the camera. You never know what's going to happen. It could delay pre-orders. It'll unexpectedly take the money out of your account when you're not expecting it. All sorts of different kinds of things like that. It's a lot easier to wait and see if something else is coming to market, if this camera is getting better features and actually is worth spending that money on. And yeah, I would say don't even get the pre-order on that. In fact, on release day, let it go by a couple days. Week, maybe even a month. Let it go by just a little bit past the release day. I know it's exciting, running out to the store and picking up that camera first day it comes out. You've got the latest and greatest right off the bat. But the reality is, when the camera comes out, they're trying to make a deadline. The company that's making the camera is rushing to put that piece to market as fast as possible so that it can fight with the competition in a much better release date. Look at DJI Osmo Action 4. It came out a month ago to try to counter sales from the GoPro, which isn't even coming out till tomorrow. at the time of recording this video. If you wait till a little after release day, since they're pushing out this camera so quick, it's almost all the time you encounter bugs, software bugs, firmware bugs. Sometimes the hardware is faulty. I know one camera had like a focusing issue. Other cameras just have firmware problems, almost always have a firmware problem. Usually the very first iteration of the firmware that comes out onto the factory floor, it gets updated so many times, and then when it goes out to market, that's the first real, out in market thing, and it's always buggy like you wouldn't believe. So you might not even be able to use it right when you first pick it up. You get real excited that you have it in your hands, and then you go to turn it on and it says, oh, Wi-Fi doesn't work for whatever reason, and now you can't connect to your phone. That's kind of annoying. So I would wait just a couple days, see what software bugs are there. If they're not even that big of a deal, go ahead and pick it up then. If you wait like a week or so, a lot of times firmware will be pushed to update on the camera, and then the camera works fine and everything's great. So be patient, take your time, wait it out, and see what happens. Because I guarantee you there will be problems, there will be issues, there will be all that kind of stuff, but it'll get fixed in just a little bit of time, or by that point you've already decided on something else and you can happily move on to that instead. Okay, now I know the intro is like, oh my gosh, bombardment of YouTube reviews. There's so much going on. And honestly, that's their job, okay? YouTube reviewers get paid some way, shape, or form through something as low as affiliate marketing. You click on the link to buy the camera through their link that they posted, and they get a little money back for doing that. All the way up to like sponsorship. They actually get handed money from the company to review the camera. So that's like, they have an incentive to put out the review to you. And, it's a good thing they do because they put a lot of detail into it. They put a lot of hard work into it. Yeah, you might get a little bit of bias there. You might be like, the GoPro gave me money to review their product, so I'm leaning towards Team GoPro in this case, right? So you're gonna see that kind of review a lot. But I would say, don't just cast them aside. Don't, be like, oh, you bad YouTube guy or girl that isn't doing, is doing this YouTube review, and I think they're lying to me just because they're getting paid. They're not. They're just trying to persuade you to purchase the camera. So they'll write a script and they'll figure out good examples that'll really be in favor of that camera. They'll highlight the features, even if some of the features aren't necessarily a good thing. For example, GoPro Hero 12 is touting better overheating management and better battery life. What they say is, oh, the GPS module was taken out, so now you got so much better battery and so much better heat. But you notice that little bit there that they glossed over really quickly? The GPS was taken out. Well, what if you like putting telemetry data on your video when you're driving down the road on a motorcycle? Or what if you like GPS geolocation tagging when you're taking photos with the GoPro? Now you don't have a GPS system? That's kind of unfortunate. So you want to kind of watch these YouTube reviews and listen to what they have to say. Get as much detail as you can from the camera, both the good and the bad. They'll probably report it to you as best they can, but they'll also kind of sugarcoat it to make it sound a little more appealing than it is. So just be aware that that is going to happen, but it's not a make or break deal on whether or not you should listen to them. It's just pay attention more and see what resonates with you and what is really attractive to you and whether or not you are going to use this in the real world. Speaking of using this in the real world, here's what we have to actually get: a pencil and paper, a keyboard, and Microsoft Word, whatever you're going to do, and draw up a little list. Write yourself down several items that you would consider your camera to be used the most in. I'll give you a good example. For me, with these little action cameras, all the way from the Insta360 Go 2, which is kind of like my favorite little one for this stuff, up to a GoPro Hero 9, which is what I currently have, and I'm looking at maybe the GoPro Hero 12 or the DJI Action 4, right? The purpose for me on these kind of cameras is I like to take photos while I'm snorkeling underwater, because I don't want to take a big rig with a big water housing that's really expensive all the time out underwater. So a nice little action camera is perfect for that job. And I like to take behind the scenes videos, whether that's on my camera, off to the side, whatever it is, during a photo shoot. I like to have these little cameras running in the background for whatever the case is. So those would be two things I'd write down right away. Take photos while snorkeling, and filming behind the scenes. Then you look at those two aspects and you say, okay, those are my more common scenarios that I use this camera for. Let's break that down further. So behind the scenes, I like to film on top of my camera. I like to film off to the side of my camera. I like to be able to just put the camera down, kind of set it and forget it sometimes. While as other times I'd like to actively quick run clips as fast as I can for whatever the action's about to happen. For the snorkeling photos, I don't always just take the photos. Sometimes I take video. Sometimes I want a nice deep dive into some coral, or I want good color science when I'm underwater, that kind of stuff. So you look at those kind of features, and then when you watch these YouTube reviewers, which I forgot to add in the last one, when you're watching these YouTube reviewers before the release date, all those reviewers are really touting the product high and mighty because they got it for free or they got paid to talk about it. All the ones after, those guys probably paid it with their own money. So you'll get a girl who bought the camera and now is having problems with it, and she'll be happy to report it, whereas the girl that got it for free won't talk about it. So that's another reason why you should wait and be patient about waiting till a little bit after release day, because that'll happen. Those reports will happen. Both reviews are very helpful because you get all sorts of information that you can then compare it to your little list that you have of actual use case scenarios that you can see yourself using the new camera with, right? So whatever features, say, behind the scenes, I primarily want to use it for like Instagram. And nowadays, Instagram's got all vertical video. You could tell by my eye roll, I'm really not happy about that. But vertical video is a thing now, right? So I want to be able to quickly switch to vertical video if I want to, which the DJI Osmo Action can do with the bracket that it's got. But also, the GoPro has like a way where you can just record in an 8x7 and then crop to a vertical video or crop to a horizontal video. And then that gives me the flexibility of keeping a regular video for other stuff like YouTube or whatever, and then still making that vertical video for Instagram. So there's a little bit of like, there's a more reliable camera can switch really fast versus the like cropping ability that's much more flexible. So you want to look at those kind of factors and just kind of write them into the area of your list that directly coincides with how you're going to use this camera. At the end of the day, doing this little list it justifies the purchase in such a way that you are now convinced that this camera can handle the stuff that you're going to want to put a demand on for this camera to do. All the examples that they show are like jumping out of airplanes and flying down, snowboarding and all sorts of crazy stuff, but you might be just like a hiker and want to get some cool hiking footage, or like I was doing with snorkeling. You're not doing a lot of extreme sports stuff that all these examples say it's capable of doing, but so you want to know what features might directly relate to what you have. And finally, these are kind of like one and the same. There's the problems, right? No camera's perfect. No matter how much we want a perfect camera, it's just never going to happen. You could always say, oh, this camera's great because it does all of these things that I'm really excited about. Yay! But then, oh, the battery's terrible on it, or the recording time is too big and now I have to purchase a whole bunch of hard drives for the storage space, or There's a problem with the focusing system. There's always something of a caveat to every camera, and in action cameras, it's even more so. I've noticed, like, you're still gonna get a great video, right? If you just wanna film a 16:9 horizontal video in 4K, excellent. You've got all the options under your umbrella nowadays. You're gonna get a great quality video. You'll be happy. The caveats come when things start getting more complex than that. Now I want to film vertically. Well, the GoPro can't really film vertically unless you put different kinds of brackets and mounts, but the Osmo can do it really quickly, so maybe that's a good idea. Oh, but it has to have a camera cage to do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Overheating issues, that behind the scenes thing I was talking about, sometimes if it's sitting on a tripod off to the side, I just let it ride until it overheats and dies. It'll still save the file, it'll still keep the file for me up to whatever point it decided to shut off, and then I have that much of data to deal with, which I usually don't like to do. So is the overheating all that bad for me? Not normally, because I'm not gonna try to aim to shoot for 25 minutes straight. But somebody on a motorcycle might. They might have it on their helmet and just want to hit record and never worry about it again, and then pick out cool things that happened over the journey that they were on. So now battery life is an issue, overheating is an issue, record length is an issue. So you got to think of, like, what are the caveats that this camera might have an issue with doing? What are the issues that have been presented already? And can you accept them? Can you say, this could be fine, I could just deal with it, or I have a workaround for it, such as like quick mounting, for example. The GoPro can mount with a tripod mount now and a finger mount, which is the normal GoPro mount, but it doesn't have the third option, which is the DJI's really fast magnetic switching feature, right? Well, you can now look at third-party companies and purchase an accessory that will be that'll allow the GoPro to switch around on the DJI magnet mounts. And that suddenly has a great workaround for the fact that the GoPro can't do it normally, right? So can you work around the problem? And if you can't work around the problem, is it still something that's acceptable to you? Because at the end of the day, if the camera's to the point where you get frustrated with it and you don't really want to use it, it's gonna sit in a drawer and not get used. I had a GoPro 9 going for a long time. It worked beautifully for the first 2 years. Then somebody pushed a software update onto it, like a forced software update onto it. And then I've had all sorts of software glitches on it to the point where I don't even use that camera anymore. So, like, it's now sitting in a drawer, barely ever getting used. If I am gonna use it, I concentrate and have to really focus on setting it up, preparing the fact that the battery's gonna drain automatically on it, that the menu system will switch around really fast unless I turn it on quickly and record quickly. All the little bugs I now have to work around, and they're not worth it for me to keep using it, so they just sit in a drawer. You don't want to get to that stage, because otherwise you have a $400 paperweight, really, that just doesn't work in your favor. So you need to think about all of the caveats that the game of these cameras is going to provide you and whether or not you can work around them and be okay with that. I forgot about the other thing that is kind of its own caveat, and that is your wallet might take another hit, right? You spend so much money on the camera, but sometimes you still need more batteries, you need more sticks, more accessories, more grips, more whatever. That adds up really quickly. Now, you might not need it right away, but is just to get to the immediate gratification of being able to do the things that you like to do with the camera, will these features not only be easy to use, but will they be relatively inexpensive when it comes to purchasing all the accessories to get to that point that you want to get to? Again, you're looking at the two or three most common things that you're going to use the camera for, and if the camera doesn't come with it right out of the box, you're going to have to purchase accessories to get to that level. Is that worth it to you? Spend $400 on a camera, you're going to then have to spend $200 on accessories? now the camera's $600 in reality to get to that baseline level, you know, of what you like to film. So maybe it's not worth it. So looking at all of these factors together, combining all of these things together is really the umbrella of how to decide on what's a good purchase for yourself, how to really justify the purchase and confidently purchase that item without, you know, regretting it later, getting some really good use out of it. So yeah, let's summarize all this and wrap this up already. I know I probably took way too long because I tend to ramble about stuff, but end of the day, camera's about to come out, you're real hyped for it. The videos that you're watching are real exciting and really adrenaline pumping. Oh man, I can't wait to pick up this piece of gear. Hold on a second. Just wait a little bit. Be patient. When the camera comes out, check for bugs, check for problems, check with complaints, check with people that have actually purchased the camera, right? Write down a list, watch both the ones that get sponsored and the ones that don't get sponsored, reviews on the camera as much as you feel like watching, and compare those features, both good and bad, to your scenario of what you for sure would want to use this camera for. And if all of that aligns nicely, if the features work really well in your favor for the scenarios that you most likely will use it for, and if the caveats, the downsides, the problems aren't that big of a deal for you and you're accepting of those issues and they're not going to annoy you later, then go ahead and pick up that camera. It'll come down to if the competition's really, really close and both of those features are really like so much, go even a little further. Like for example, for me, I really like taking photos underwater. Both cameras can do that, but at the end of the day, maybe the GoPro is the better choice because it has a higher megapixel, whereas the DJI Osmo had a lower megapixel because it's more video centric. So that might be the deciding factor for me. While behind the scenes might be easier to use here, a couple accessories on the GoPro might make that faster for me, and then I can take better photos later when I want to use it. So a lot of those features, the chance of you finding at least one that'll be the deciding factor to flip you over in a confident decision will be most likely there. If you're still somehow deadlocked in between the two, you're going to be happy no matter what you choose, really. There's not going to be a problem in either way. So in that case, I would choose, if both of them are deadlocked on features for your use case scenario and you know they're both going to work, then I would look at reliability and just choose which one is more reported by both the sponsored and the not sponsored videos, which one's reported to work way easier and way faster and more intuitive and stuff like that. So that's kind of it. I hope that this was informative for you. I hope this was helpful for you. The GoPro Hero 12 is going to be a great camera. I'm looking forward to seeing it and seeing what happens in the coming weeks after it gets released tomorrow. Not going to buy it tomorrow, going to wait a little bit and make sure people have either worked out the bugs or have reviewed it from an actual average consumer standpoint. And then of course the DJI Osmo Action 4 is a great camera as well. The video quality is really excellent on it. It does a really good job in things like has a bigger sensor for better low light, a lower pixel count for better video quality. A lot of little things that are good about it, but also there's a bunch of complaints about it as well, and you'll just have to watch more reviews to find out. So I hope you enjoy the choosing process. I hope you take these steps very carefully. At the end of the day, is it really worth it to even upgrade is your first question before you do any of this. And then from there, take a step back and take your time and make a good decision. Good luck. At the end of the day, this is all about having fun, filming and playing. And if the thing is going to be frustrating for you, then it's not worth getting. See you later.